Welcome to the Inspired Messenger show. I'm very, very happy that you're here. My name is Mark Porteous, and I just wanted to share that this series is really designed to inspire, educate, and motivate you to recognize and share your own divine gifts with the world. So I'm just going to jump right in. I've already introduced twice, and we really want to get to Myste's message. So just in case you weren't listening before, Myste Lyn is a master empowerment coach specializing in supporting women recovering from loss. As an intuitive healer, Myste helps her clients reconnect with their inner confidence. She specializes in reducing fears and alleviating guilt. So, hi, Myste. Welcome back to the show.
Hi, Mark. It's my sincere pleasure to be here, and for there only to be one of each of us. I mean, two of each of us, I'm sure, would be most beneficial to the world, and I wish I could replicate on many days. It would be a wondrous thing. But we are here today to talk about fear, and first of all, I want to thank everyone who's come on and joined us, because it's a topic that I think affects everyone. And it's part of the human experience, really. It's one of the feelings that we have, and all of our feelings are a gift. Just to touch on that briefly, some of us see sadness, anger, fear. Some of us perceive the negative feelings as feelings maybe we shouldn't have, and our tendency may be to run from these. And I'm here to tell you that that's not going to help you. The more we can accept and embrace our deep feelings, especially the darker ones, and they're, happy. Everyone wants to be happy and feel joy and feel love and feel peace and feel courageous and all the feelings on the higher end. But guilt and shame and blame and fear, often when these feelings come into our lives, we don't give them the respect they deserve. So when we feel them, some of us automatically, we shut them down. We distract, and if you live in the city, there's many distractions. Some of us, there are healthier ways to distract, and there's less healthy ways to distract. Some people turn to substance abuse. And I think, Mark, we talked about this pre-show, ways that people can turn away from that which they should be turning towards to, and that was through addictions, and that could be to drugs, alcohol, it could be to food, it could be to sex, it could be to anything to get them away from what they really should be looking at. And often what they're running from is really themselves. They're running from the deep feelings, and perhaps it's only because they haven't been taught that it's okay to have those deep feelings. And if you haven't tried this, if you haven't had this experience yet, it can be quite an epiphany. So I would encourage everyone listening that the next time you feel something that you don't want to feel, give yourself permission and go into your bedroom, find a safe place, shut the door, make sure you're safe, no one's going to disturb you, and just allow yourself to feel whatever it is. And it might be a bit scary at first, but all you really have to do is simply give yourself the time and space to feel this. And it may end up in huge crying. You may want to bring a journal and a pen, because you might feel angry, and just writing freely without editing, without censoring, without judging is a wonderful way to release. But it's very important that you don't judge what comes. Very important. And once you've done this, if you haven't done it ever, there might be a lot that comes. So you'd probably want to block out at least an hour just to be safe, because we wouldn't want to have you start this process and get going and then be like, oh, geez, I have to, get my children or do something with my spouse or whatever it is. So really allow yourself, and that might happen at some point. When you become more practiced in this, you might only get halfway through feeling it and have to attend to the day-to-day, which we all do. But I really recommend that for the first time that you try this, let it go the full spectrum and really everything. And just when you're experiencing this, see if you can invoke your higher knower, and that's the observer in you, the person the higher self that kind of observes what you're doing. And so you're on your bed crying in a ball, and just, you know, that observer can just be saying, yeah, that's okay. And this is, you need to do this to heal. It's part of the human experience. And the reason I'm encouraging you to allow this feeling to go right to the end is that when you've purged, when you've released, it's quite cathartic, and that means it's there's a shift. So you'll reach a point where everything that needs to be released has been released, and it's almost like turning on and off a light. Suddenly you'll just be like, oh, I'm okay. And it's interesting because you can see this often with children. You know, children, I have a 6-year-old, so I see this a lot. And when I give her permission to fully emote, and I don't comment on it, and I don't try and fix it, just let her emote and whatever. And almost always it's not about what they say it's about. It's something, whatever, you know, all the little stresses at school. And when she's finished, it's just like flipping a switch. And she's like, okay, Mom, so I'm going to go and do this now. But it's 100% turnaround. And if anyone out there has had a really, really good cry, you may remember that switch flipping and the tremendous release and amount of peace and joy you get. It's almost like a gift at the end of a really good cry. And that's what it's like when you turn and face your fears, or any feeling for that matter that you're inclined to run from.
Wow. What a way to jump right into such a deep, deep topic. There's so much to explore, but you just like went right in there. That was our call to action takeaway. I guess we can do the introduction now. That was very,
sounds great, Mark.
that was really a nice deep dive into addressing fear, and there's so much more to explore. But I'm curious, for those who may not know who you are already, tell us a little bit about your personal journey and how you became, you know, the expert in this very, very interesting niche.
Yeah, thank you. Well, my name's Myste Lyn. My website is bittersweetblessing.com. So perhaps from what I've said, you can understand a little bit about the bittersweet blessing. So things in life that we tend to see as bitter, as nasty, and we don't want to go there, really they're a blessing. And there I see them as an opportunity for growth. So anytime a bit of bitter enters your life, it's really a blessing. So that's where the website name comes from. And a bit about my personal journey. But first, I just Heidi made a comment that she said the Showcase app is on, and there's an echo. So I'm not sure. I don't know if I can turn that app off. Heidi, if you're listening, and you can send in the comment stream how to turn that app off. And it actually, I think it's an app that's turned on. This is a technical piece. Sorry for this aside. But Mark, I think it's an app that you turn on or off pre-show. And once you're in the show, we may not have that option to turn it off. But Heidi, thank you for bringing that to our attention. And if there is a way for us to turn that off and anyone knows, just please enter it into the comment stream and we'll do our best. But for now, we'll proceed. So my story. Well, I grew up in not a very functional home. I always knew that getting through high school would just be something I'd have to do, and that life would really start when I was finished. And then through my 20s, I was a bit of a soulful wanderer. I've studied at 7 or 8 Canadian universities, and love to travel, love to be in new places, and fully experience life. And I really was an observer, just kind of, you know, walking around Canada and some of the United States, and I've been in India and Ecuador and China, and often walking as a woman alone, and really just observing life from this higher self. It's kind of going, oh yeah, and wow, and more of an observer than a participant, perhaps. And with that, I often, or sometimes, found myself in places I wasn't supposed to be. So for instance, Vancouver, East Hastings, late at night, I'd just been to a theater show or something, and just not really a safe place, but I always felt safe. And I think that was my spiritual connection, just having this trust in something greater. And and another thing about fear is that, especially for women, and if there's fear of actual, being hurt physically or abused, if offenders can smell fear, so they say. So if you have fear within you, and fear, for instance, the Course in Miracles states fear is simply absence from God. So when you're connected to something higher, and of course that's God in whatever way you conceive that to be, that's something higher. So when you're connected to something higher, you can't have fear, because you're flooded with trust and love and light. So if you do have fear and notice you have it, the solution is to connect back to the higher source, and that takes some time, and it can come with practice, but that's really all it is. So anyhow, experiences such as this, and even traveling alone as a woman in China, very unheard of. So again, but I always felt I was traveled with the light, and always felt safe and protected, even when maybe I shouldn't have felt that way. So it's often a mind game. So it's quantum physics. I love the new science that's catching up with spirituality and proving that what we think becomes things. So a lot of it's a mind game. So be careful what you think. So I'm kind of weaving my story in and out of some tidbits here. Did you have a question, Mark?
I am. I'm kind of curious, because you're saying that you've always had that confidence and that lack of actual fear. And because of that, nothing ever bad happened to you. Do you think that if something, or has something horrible happened to you, that has changed that? And maybe you're getting to that part, but I'm just wondering, once something horrible happens, does that make it where you can still get to the point where you are now?
That's a very good question. I just said another comment. Heidi says that you might have yourself white boxed. Do you know what that is?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, so just click your little box at the bottom. So you're not white boxed, and then it makes it. Then
Both of us are on there.
Yeah, when I talk, I'm on the screen, and when you talk, you're on the screen.
Man,
so
sorry,
anyhow,
thank you.
we're good. No worries. I'm kind of an old hand at Google Plus, because I have my own show, which is and this is a little bit shows that I don't have too much fear. I might be a bit crazy for accepting this name that my lovely co-host chose, the Death Chicks. So I co-host a show called the Death Chicks, and it's tongue planted firmly in cheek, as Heidi likes to say. But we talk about death, dying, grief, and loss, and we bring light to it, and we want people of the world to stop fearing this, because it's a part of life, and really it can be a wonderful part of life. What's not wonderful about it is that we fear it. So that's what's going on there. Now back to your question, Mark. Okay, so I think the scenario was that we're in the light, we're with God, we're feeling confident, and then something tragic happens, and fear comes in, and we feel we may have lost the light, and the question is how to get back. Is that it? No, now you froze up on me, Mark. I'm not sure what's going on. Did I have the question correct? Yes. Okay. So what we need to do in that situation is trust that the higher knower knows what's right for us, and that there is always a gift in our tragedy. So we are never given something that we cannot handle. So and if we're given big challenges, it's because we're ready for big growth. So when those big challenges come, often we revert to old patterns of behavior that may not be serving our highest conscience. So as you know, when we're born as human beings, we're slowly evolving and learning to step into our best selves. And sometimes if we're faced with stressors, we can fall into lower selves and maybe not so noble behavior. And this is when fear can kick in. But this is really when the big challenges are an invitation to step into our highest self, to just stop and take some breaths and say, what is the best step forward at this moment? And chances are it'll be very difficult to move in the direction that we're supposed to move in. Or that maybe that's wrong, not the best word, supposed to. Maybe it's the best direction for us, or for the higher good, or for the situation at hand. And it will probably take a lot of courage to step in that direction. There's probably many other directions that would be easier to step in. But it's really an opportunity to do the deep dive and check in. And actually, this is a great time for me to share the little intuition trick that can help you make those good decisions. So when you're faced with a difficult decision, or even a small decision, you know, what do I wear today? That would be probably more a woman question than a man.
Maybe.
But it can be for light things or heavy things. You know, should I marry this man? There's a big one. So what you can do is ask yourself and say, yes, I'm going to do X. And well, actually, there's a little prep work to do before you jump into the asking of the question. So, and we'll do that now.
Okay.
So I want everyone to think about a time when you were at the top of your game. At the top of your game, life was good. And just breathe into that. Think of a time, breathe into it. And think of how you felt. Think of how you walked. Think of how you held your body. Maybe think of the clothes you were wearing. Think of your environment. Breathe it all in and feel this feeling. Let this feeling flood every cell of your body. And you may find that naturally you'll be sitting up straight, because when we have a straight, elongated spine, it's our heart is open when our shoulders are back and down, and when we're feeling at the top of our game, we always walk tall. We walk tall, and if we're feeling sad, and now we're going to shift into the other one. So just note that good feeling, and we're going to shift into a sadder, a darker feeling. Now we won't stay here for long, don't worry, and just like slouch your body. So look when I slouch. When I slouch with me. See how much shorter I am, really. So think of now I'm laughing. How can you think of something sad? So think of a time, a nasty time in your life, and just notice that, and notice how you feel inside. So what you'll find is that the first way your body felt perhaps lighter and expanding and open. And there's my dog snoring. I don't know if you can hear him.
Barely.
And then when you're thinking of the nasty thing, you would feel kind of contracted, and it's almost as if your body and your muscles tense up a bit, and like resistance. So knowing those two, so body, how you feel inside your body, you ask yourself a question. So something totally materialistic. I'm going to buy this new car, and your body says yeah, or it's like but you listen to your body, or I should. Anyhow, it can, like I said, it can be small things or it can be big things, but our bodies don't lie. Like the science has shown that now, and the Institute of Heart Math, I think they've just changed it, heartmathinstitute.org. There's fabulous research there, and that's where well, it's interesting because I've known many things intuitively, but I was never able to confirm it. And then and I didn't really even know how to explain it or talk about it. And then recent findings in quantum physics, I'm reading this and I'm going, wow, it's true. I'm not, I make sense. My world makes sense. And Heart Math Institute is doing some great research in this area. And science now shows there's a heart brain and there's a gut brain. So when you say you have a gut feeling, or I'm following my heart, well, there's a brain down there, and it's working, and it's telling you things. So, and the body doesn't lie. So when you have a big decision, just ask yourself, or give yourself one situation, say it the one way as a statement, and notice what your body does. Does it open up or does it contract? And then go try the other statement. If you need to, you might not need to do both. Usually you don't. Usually it's quite obvious. But the body doesn't lie.
That's such a beautiful exercise, and I've used different variations of that with even standing and using yourself as a pendulum, feeling if you feel pushed forward or back, depending on how you felt. And I taught that to my wife. It was really helpful for her, just a very basic exercise that anybody can do. And what you're talking about with heart math is really interesting because, again, we knew this intuitively, but they have all the science to show that your heart mind reacts faster. It leads your brain mind. That we would never have known that without all the incredible research that they put into it.
Yeah. And it's interesting because I'm involved with an Inuit parenting program up here, and this is drawing on knowledge Inuit had for centuries and centuries, and much of it is being lost. But in the past, Inuit children were always taught to make decisions with their heart, and that would be the best decision. So, and then the heart informs the brain and makes good decisions. But if it goes the other way around, it's often not the best decision. Mm-hmm.
Yes, because again, it's talking about being decisions made out of fear.
Mm-hmm. And fear, as far as the brain, the neurological workings of fear and how the brain works is the back part, this part here, the brain stem, that was the first part of the brain to develop, and fear was very much a part of that first brain. So when humans were evolving, and they needed that at the time because there was predators, and fear invokes fight, flight, or freeze, and we still play these out today. So freeze is like the chameleon. If I don't move, maybe they won't see me and I'll be safe. Fight is fighting, and flight is fleeing, running. So and it has a purpose. So there is a purpose for these basic brainstem reactions. Now in our modern world, not so much so anymore, but they still serve a purpose. And when that is in fact kicked in, it can be helpful. But I think most of our viewers, that kind of brainstem reaction is not necessary in today's world. However, if fear gets triggered, if the body is triggered into fear, it's very important to know that once you trigger brainstem, the frontal lobe shuts off. So if you're triggered by fear, you can't think rationally anymore. And this is why when children are, or maybe your wife or anyone is highly emotional, reasoning does not help. And you might be there saying, well, look, and it's absolutely 100% clear to you. You have no idea why they don't see this clearly, but they can't see it clearly because they're in brainstem and the frontal lobe's turned off. So if anyone is emotional, what we need to do is allow them to be emotional. So there's something going on inside, big feelings need to be released. They can't be understood. So that person needs a safe place to go to release all that's in them. And they can't explain it. It doesn't have to be explained. What's important is that it's released and released fully. So anyone who's emoting, they need to be respected and allowed to fully emote. And after, and I would say a good chunk after, when they first, and I've done this with my daughter, I've jumped in too early to try and talk about it, and she's immediately back into emoting. So, maybe the next day, maybe given a few hours, but really quite a while after, there may be an opportunity to talk about emoting that you're not feeling good about, but honor that emotion and just say, okay, excuse me, I need some alone time. So parents, by all means, give yourself the time out. And just go and fully release and emote. And that's probably the biggest gift we can give to ourselves.
And that's so important, including ourselves in that, because it's helpful to be able to support somebody else going through it. but really to be able to have our own control over our own response to situations is so powerful. And especially with children, it kind of sets that example, so they'll be able to follow that. And this is a great way to, take care of a situation as it arises. And I can see for myself how it would be very helpful. What about long term? Like, what are some of your tools or techniques to help somebody deal with fear long term, or with being in this more emotional state?
Mm-hmm. So it's really a matter of the higher. There's a few things involved. One is the higher knower, so the observer. So if you can notice when you're reacting, and then just notice it. No, it's really important not to judge it, because we're not going to just realize, oh yeah, I have this new tool and now I'm fine. So we've been in our emotional habits. And who is it? Is it Joe Dispenza, The Molecules of Emotion? And he talks about this. He talks about how I think it's him, I might be wrong, forgive me if I am, but there are scientists out there who are studying this, and we're in fact addicted to our emotions. One of my favorite movies, and it really opened my eyes to what's going on in the world of quantum physics. It's a quirky, interesting, fun movie, and it has the science really blended into a fun story, and it's called What the Bleep Do We Know?
Of course, yes.
And I'll write that in. What the Bleep Do We Know? And that's they touch on that, about the molecules of emotions and how we are addicted to our emotions. So for long-term gain and change, we first need to recognize when we're emoting, and then allow ourselves to emote. Because what can turn into a vicious cycle is we find ourselves in behaviors, in strong emotional behaviors that we don't like, that we label as bad or wrong. And then, that's the self-battering. So that's the hammer, and that can be a vicious cycle. So the most important thing is, whatever you're doing, notice it, but don't judge it. Simply notice it and allow yourself to be there. If you're frustrated, if you're angry, if you're sad, if you're upset, if whatever it is you're feeling, honor that. That's part of being human. Sadness, anger, frustration, those are human feelings. And as human beings, it's a gift to be a human. And that feeling is with you for a reason. And if you self-batter or negate that feeling, you're impeding your personal growth. So the first step is simply to notice, don't judge, allow the feeling, allow it to fully be, and just... it's simple. And then once you start this, it becomes a practice. So for instance, recently in my life, I've experienced a loss, and maybe it's anyhow, it's still a little bit fresh. So I'm a bit might be a bit shy to talk about it, but I'll share. And it crossed my mind, like, I have to go through this, and it was quite a deep loss. And because my tagline is bringing light to loss. So it was really, I thought, my goodness, I'd certainly be a hypocrite if I didn't, fully explore this. And really, it was only yesterday I was feeling deep sadness and deep, I haven't felt that way in quite a long time. So it's really a practice is what it is. And just noticing it and allowing yourself to be there. And I'm just going to do a personal share here. I was so proud of my daughter. And I said, I'm sorry, I'm just feeling sad. I didn't even have to say anything, though. She could tell, and we were having dinner. And she started complimenting me, just saying a few little nice things. And I was so proud. I couldn't believe it, that she recognized that I was having a bit of a hard time and was nice to me, or wasn't complaining about her dinner or going on about whatever she usually goes on about. So that was quite lovely, and for me that shows that perhaps I've taught her that too, by allowing her to emote and just allowing anyhow.
Well, this is very, very rich, and I appreciate you being able to share about your child. I have twins that are 5, and the idea of embracing the dark, which is the topic that you want to talk about, you want to share the whole, and that's what you're saying right here. I felt like I wasn't really allowed to. I felt like a lot of my life was very Pollyanna, and I wanted to be happy all the time. And for the most part, I really, really am. I remember my wife, one of our neighbors, asking, is he really that happy all the time? She said, yeah, but it's not easy being married to Mr. Sunshine, because she wants to be able to emote. And so like I kind of can put off that, oh, we're all supposed to be happy all the time. And I know that that's not the way that it is for most people. And for me, it was kind of that, well, where you put your energy, where you focus your energy is where the energy will flow. And I didn't want to focus on the negative. So I kind of denied it for a long time. And it's only recently that I've understood the power of really being able to look in that, and like you said, kind of sit in it and understand what it feels like and how it plays. There is some light in it, finding that light in it.
Yeah. And there's a richness too, like there is a real sweet quality within the bitter. Like it's almost like when you're in the realms of that deep sadness. And really what, to answer a question you answered earlier, how did I get into this? It was when I lost my mother. My mother passed, and I felt things I had no idea I was capable of feeling. And it was just an amazingly rich experience. And again, I was observing myself and just quite astounded at the level of depth of feeling in this human experience. And then of course the people I was interacting with, just friends and family who were there supporting her passing, and the depth of conversation compared to the depth of feeling, there was a huge gap, just like, valleys, this huge gap. And then that's what brought me to the topic of exploring death, is that gap. I think I got a little bit off track there, Mark, but
No, you did. We were looking at kind of long term, how you can address this. And you were talking about first that this is a muscle, and I think that's part of it too. That you say it's easy, and that's kind of why I was asking, well, what if you've had real trauma? How do you address that? Because it may not be really easy, and especially starting off, just like you said, recognizing the observer, knowing that how you're feeling, and acknowledging that is the start. But now it's a practice, you said, and that seems to be the long-term answer.
Yeah, and I have an online course, and it's almost ready for release. If anyone's interested, it's really it walks you step by step through the process and it's called A Practice of Living Peacefully with Loss. And I chose practice very consciously because it is a practice. And I was touching on before the habits and the molecules of emotion and how we're addicted to our ways of responding. And if you're, for you, maybe it's happiness, maybe you're addicted to happiness, and that's just how you respond with everything. But by allowing yourself to feel the different emotions, really in whatever emotion, most of us have one that is kind of bigger than the other, and by allowing us to feel and dive into the other realms of emotion that we have available to us as humans, it provides a richer landscape upon which to live our lives. In the course that I've developed, really it was a download of everything I've known, everything I've learned on my journey, and it walks you through, and it is a practice. And once you go through the work, and a lot of it is just understanding self and looking at each area of yourself, and then we've the medicine wheel, or the spiritual, the thoughts, which is sometimes mental or intellectual, emotional, the feeling, so habits of behavior. So one of the exercises I have people do is just pick an area of your life, like it might be your physical health, it might be your home, your finances, but pick an area of your life that you'd like to work on. And what do you do when something happens in this area? So you write out what you do and how do you feel, and what are your thoughts around this. And then you have a close look at those, and how, and then a lot of the work I do is really connecting to higher self, and this is almost the base. So for every module, and it's there's audio, so there's visualizations to connect with and be in your higher self. And then from this place, you look at what's going on in your life, and then you apply your higher self to that. Well, how could I change the languaging around that? How could I change my beliefs around that? Well, yes, this is something I believe, but some of the beliefs that we have are simply things our parents or teacher or someone respected told us enough when we were young, and now we believe it, because that's all a belief is, something that we've heard so many times, we believe it to be true. And that's how the brain works. That's why it's really important, the people you're with, to have positive messaging, because whatever they hear, if people hear something enough times, they believe it to be true. And as an adult, some of the viewers may have had some aha moments. Well, isn't that funny? I believe that, but it's not true. And and often these beliefs are unconscious. So there's the beliefs, and then the thinking. So this happened, what do I think about it? When you really examine the thinking, it can be linked to the belief, and there can be some perhaps errors in the thinking, or ways that it can be shifted to reflect more thinking along the lines of love and light, and from the higher self. And then from the thinking often follows the actions and the behavior. So how do I behave around this? But it's often at the level of thinking. Thinking is really key to change our behaviors. Yeah. So it's a process. It's a process, but
you're really saying it's about choice. The thinking part is the mental. You're saying that as opposed to the emotional or the actions that you're taking, you can really make the difference in your choices.
Well, it's not so much about your choices. It's about what are the thoughts dominating your mind. And often we don't notice our thinking. It's just for many, it's an incessant hum. But if you can start to pay attention, and often when we are feeling not so good, or starting to do a behavior that maybe we don't like, just stop for a moment. What am I thinking right now? And chances are your thinking is a bit askew. Chances are your thinking is something's not quite right there, and you can change it. But that's the longer term. If people are interested in doing my course, there's a few more tweaks I have to make. But what I can do for viewers is if they connect with me, I'll provide a discount code for $100 off, and in exchange, I just ask for some feedback, because I've had a few people through it, and I've got wonderful feedback. And I'm hoping to launch it very soon. But if people would like to try it now, I can set them up for them.
Awesome. So to tell us two things: how can people get in touch with you? And then also you have a special gift. Tell us a little bit about. First, tell us how people can reach you, and then tell us about the bonus.
Sure. Okay. Well, if you see my my lower third here, it's bittersweetblessing.com. There is a contact Misty spot there. There's also a Death Chicks tab there, so you can find that out. The website, I am looking to upgrade the website, so it's if it seems a bit askew, it's because it's a work in progress. Misty at bittersweetblessing.com is an email address that you can use to contact me. I'm on Google+, Myste Lyn, or through the Death Chicks, also on Google+. I'm on Facebook. I think it's Facebook Bittersweet Blessing or Myste Lyn. Either should show up. I'm not much of a Twitterer, although I do love birds. I'll make it there eventually. Yeah, I think that's the best way to get a hold of me. And you had another question in there too.
You're providing a bonus gift. So anybody who's watching this live can look at the button right below the video, or if you're watching the replay. If not, you can go to inspiredmessengersnetwork.com/Misty, MYST, and you're offering.
Yeah. So the bonus gift that I have, it's a segment from the course, and there's 5 modules in Bittersweet Breakthrough. That's the course, and it's kind of like my peace process. So it's my personal peace process. But it's a segment from that, and it's been adapted a little bit. So it's a mini course. So it comes with an audio file that it does, as I explained, kind of bring you to your place of peace through a guided visualization. And then there's a PDF, and in that PDF is so it's information, so a little bit of science and the why behind it, and then there's some exercises, and then it's just a self-exploration, and it's really about just naming our fear. When we can name our fear instead of just reacting, when we can say, hey, what is it that I'm afraid of? And when we can say, okay, I'm afraid of this, and when we can say, look at it and say, yeah, I'm afraid of this. This is huge. It may seem like a small step, but this is a huge step. Instead of just turning our back, say, no, I see you're there. I am afraid of you, and that's okay. And that's half the challenge right there, really. It's just to, yeah, I'm afraid of you, and it's okay that I'm afraid. However, I know I can overcome you, and that's when you just it's just about embracing it, and what do you have to teach me? It's almost like having a dialogue with that, and the mini course walks you through some steps, and it's the more we can look at it, and I think I love to put fun in things. So the last part of the mini course is ask participants to create a visual representation of their fear. And I think they're also to create a representation of their highest self, but for sure they are with their fear. I created this a while ago, so I haven't, anyhow. But so one of the, and I go through, I provide example of artistic ways you can, and one of them I remember, it's like, have fun with it. Like get some mustard or relish or olives from the fridge, and just really go to town and have fun with it. Because the more you can, if you can get to the point when where you're laughing at your fear, and maybe it's, and you could do this for kids too, like using olives with the red eyes for the eyeballs, and spaghetti for the mouth. But if you can take what you feared and create this, and even if it's really horrendous and ugly, if you can look at it, and then I say put it somewhere where you can look at it every day, it really takes the power away from it. And it's amazing, and how that simple exercise can get you over it.
And does that work for, because as you were talking about this, I was thinking a lot about the difference, and maybe you can kind of a little bit define for you the difference between a fear and a phobia. Because people might have a phobia of spiders, and they can see a spider on TV that they know can't bite them, but they're still afraid of seeing it on TV. And then there's that deep fear of failure, of not being enough, of all of those inner deep kind of fears. Does it work the same for both?
So for phobias, what's happening there is brain stems being triggered. Okay, so it's like an instant, they see it and they're in brainstem, and that's it. So often what's worked, and this is a very old, well-known psychological tool, it's desensitization therapy. So you could say, okay, so you could draw a line and say, you know what that is? And they say, no, well, that's the leg of a spider. So if they can, do you think you could sleep with this leg of the spider in your bed, or that might be too much, but maybe we'll just put this leg of the spider here on the coffee table, and do you think you'd be okay with that? And maybe not. Well, what about the toenail of a spider? Would that work? So it's desensitization, right? And in the course, I do ask people to fully, but the more, the farther you can go with it, the better, because it's a game, it's a mind trick, really. For whatever reason, it's been ingrained in the mind that this is something to fear, and when we visually see that, it sends a direct connect to the brain, fear, boom, brainstem, and then we've lost it. So it's just a matter of retraining the brain, really, because there's the neural pathway is so strong, it just needs a little touch of a feather, a wave of the wind, and boom, we're there. So we need to create new neural pathways. So, okay, I can handle the toenail of a spider. And yeah, and okay, and then, but that reinforces a new neural pathway, that part of a spider is okay. And then maybe you work up to the leg, and then eventually there's a neural pathway that has maybe a whole spider's body. And then we're starting to get a balance. And then maybe you see a spider and it doesn't automatically go to the old one, but we've created a new, and that's just how the brain works. Like the more you use something, and then if you don't have an alternative, right? So you need you have the old one, but you need to present the alternative. And that's where the higher self and the, you know, connection with God, and that well, just that place where you're feeling good. You don't even have to believe in God. I mean, it helps, whatever, to believe in something higher, but just to have a more positive alternative to replace. Because if you're automatically going to brainstem, and you, but that's why you slowly start to introduce other places to go.
And I think that you really the first part of it is really identifying. You talked about being in the darkness and embracing the dark, and I understand now the benefits of that. And then you're saying along with that, you also need to have another option, and that's the looking at the light. And you talked about not really needing to believe in God, and for me, you talked about faith too in our own private conversation. That's one of the pieces of overcoming. Is having some faith. So you can do it perhaps without spirituality, but I find it very challenging. I would wonder how somebody who doesn't believe in any kind of order or any kind of higher power would be able to have that faith if they were in that situation.
Yeah. Well, I just want to speak. One thing you said was that the first part was just being there, and the other part is having the light. It's really important, Mark, that when you're feeling your negative emotion, you can't look at the light. You can't, when you're in your negative emotion, you really have to be there and honor it as part of the human experience. Because if you try to jump to the light, you're just avoiding it. So that those deep, dark feelings of sadness or fear or anger, they're gifts too. And you need to be, you can't, if you try and run to the light and you're there, they're going to keep haunting you because you're not honoring them. You're just wanting to jump into the light. So they first and foremost have to be fully honored. Yeah, when you're in them. So then, as far as the other option, the other option is what you do when you're not. When you start to do the work of, okay, what can I do to replace this? What positive thing, or you know, the desensitization, or but you never try and jump to the light when you're emoting. You just fully be there. Allow yourself to be where you are in the present, whatever it is you're feeling. It's okay as long as you're not hurting others or yourself. It's okay. It's okay. Just feel it, allow it, accept it, surrender to it.
I think that's really reassuring for so many people who like myself, you know, try not to be there, to really not just be like, it's okay, but it's more than okay. It really, you're saying, be in it and understand the value of it and appreciate it. Beautiful.
Yeah, and that's the bittersweet, and it really brightens our world in the long run, because allowing yourself to feel the depths of sadness or grief or even anger has its merits, right? As long as it's not, the feeling of anger is 100% fine. Now expressing anger in ways that harms others is not fine. Okay to be mad, but not okay to be mean.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. You're right. Like you said, as long as it doesn't affect others.
Yeah. And then just, I notice we are coming up to the top of the hour, but you mentioned the fear of not being enough. Now, you may know this or may not, but that is the number one fear of people, is that they're not good enough. Yeah. Wow. So if anyone wants to explore that further, I'd be happy to share more. So just please reach out and connect with me. It's definitely worth exploring, and you are enough. Everyone is enough. This is just somewhere along the line we may have been told, or we may have told ourselves, or who knows, but to accept yourself fully as you are, where you are, that's probably the biggest gift you can give. And it doesn't mean stop reaching for your goals or stop trying to be better, because that's something we all perhaps do naturally, but really to accept where you're at now is a beautiful gift.
It's so interesting, because that's such a powerful message to leave on. I was going to ask if there was anything else that you want to share, but I really want to underscore that about you are enough, exactly as you are, wherever you are, to be able to value and appreciate that. I can't think of anything else that you'd want to add bigger than that, but is there anything else that you'd like to share?
Well, just embrace your fear, dance with your dark, and know that you'll be okay. It's okay. It's okay to be there, and consider it a dance. Like bring the element of play into it, even though it is dark and heavy. No, you're never, it's not going to last, right? Feelings always change. And you know what? Okay, one last thing. So I said I was sad the other day, but I wasn't sad about being sad. Because if I was sad about being sad, or if I was angry about being angry, well, sad about being sad, that would be depression, right?
Mm.
But if I'm just sad, and accept my sadness, that's okay. Yeah, so that's what we want to do. That's what we want to aim for, is just honoring these human emotions. And then that's all they are. They're just feelings. And they deserve, they're here, they're part of our inner guidance system. And someone said, you know, when you have really big feelings in regards to loss, it just shows how deeply you loved. And that's a beautiful thing.
Mm-hmm. It is, absolutely. Well, Misty, I appreciate you being able to just jump right in there through all the chaos and be able to share so much about how we can process and embrace the dark, process fear, giving us a lot of great tools and understanding about how it works. And hopefully everybody, again, will download your free gift just right below here or at inspiredmessengersnetwork.com/Misty, MYST. And again, I just am so grateful for our connection and for all the wonderful work that you do. And I just adore you.
Thanks. It's been really nice to be here. And like I said, we have our show, The Death Chicks, where I'm usually the host. And I have to say, I don't think I'm a very good host. I'm not a professional host, but I love our guests and I love the conversations we have. And I love being on the other end of the camera, or you know, not being the host, being able to speak about what I'm passionate about and what I love, and to share what I've learned. So I really appreciate this opportunity, and big thanks to the Inspired Messengers Network. Love you guys and love your work. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Myste Lyn. And yes, I really love seeing on the other side, because again, you're always in the support role, but as this, what you're so passionate about, it's so clear. Like, you packed so much into, I can't believe it's already been an hour where time is up, but thank you. And everyone else out there, I really appreciate you for being messengers and expressing yourself in the world, however it is that you're able to do that. Look forward to connecting with you again on the Inspired Messenger Show. Keep shining your light brightly. Namaste.
Mm-hmm. Namaste.